Donald Henry Rumsfeld, July 9, 1932 to June 29, 2021, was an American politician, businessman, and naval officer whose career spanned over 6 decades, marked by significant roles in government, corporate leadership, and military service. Known for his sharp intellect, relentless work ethic, and controversial tenure as U.S. Secretary of Defense, Rumsfeld's life was a complex blend of achievement and criticism, particularly tied to his role in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Below is a comprehensive account of his life, drawn from a range of sources, including his own memoir and critical analyses, to provide a balanced perspective. Early life and education. Born in Chicago, Illinois, on July 9, 1932, Donald Rumsfeld grew up in a middle-class family with German ancestry, though he was occasionally teased for resembling a tough Swiss. His father, a real estate salesman, served in the Navy during World War II, which led the family to temporarily relocate to Coronado, California, from 1943 to 1945. Raised in Winnetka, Illinois, Rumsfeld attended a congregational church and excelled as an Eagle Scout, earning the Distinguished Eagle Scout Award and the Silver Buffalo Award later in life. He was a standout student and athlete at New Trier High School, playing drums and saxophone in the band and competing in wrestling. Rumsfeld attended Princeton University on academic and naval ROTC scholarships, graduating in 1954 with a degree in political science. His senior thesis, The Steel Seizure Case of 1952 and Its Effects on Presidential Powers, reflected his early interest in governance and executive authority. At Princeton, he was a collegiate wrestler, showcasing the discipline and competitive spirit that would define his career. Military service and early career. After graduating, Rumsfeld served as a naval aviator and flight instructor from 1954 to 1957, a period he later reflected on humorously, noting that the planes he flew were museum relics. Following active duty, he remained in the Navy Reserve until 1975. In the late 1950s, he worked briefly as a Capitol Hill staffer and investment banker before launching his political career. Congressional career, 1962-1969. At age 30, Rumsfeld ran for Congress in Illinois' 13th Congressional District, winning election in 1962 as a Republican. He served 4 terms until 1969, supporting the Vietnam War and the 1964 Civil Rights Act while opposing many of President Lyndon Johnson's Great Society programs. His congressional tenure was marked by challenging the Republican Old Guard, helping elevate Gerald Ford to party leadership. Rumsfeld's ambition and strategic thinking were evident early, setting the stage for his rapid rise in Washington. Nixon and Ford administrations, 1969-1977. In 1969, Rumsfeld resigned from Congress to join President Richard Nixon's administration, directing the Office of Economic Opportunity and later the Economic Stabilization Program, both with cabinet-level status. As a counselor to Nixon, he navigated the turbulent Watergate era. In 1973, he was appointed U.S. ambassador to NATO, serving until 1974 when he returned to Washington as President Gerald Ford's White House Chief of Staff. In this role, Rumsfeld recruited Dick Cheney as his deputy, forging a decades-long alliance. In 1975, Ford appointed Rumsfeld as Secretary of Defense, making him the youngest person to hold the position at age 43. During this first stint, 1975-1977, he advocated for a strong military buildup to counter the Soviet Union, aligning with Ford's rival, Ronald Reagan, on defense policy. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1977. Corporate leadership, 1977-2001. After Ford's 1976 election loss, Rumsfeld transitioned to the private sector, serving as president and CEO of G.D. Searle and Company, a pharmaceutical firm, from 1977 to 1985. His leadership turned the struggling company around, notably through the controversial approval of aspartame, NutraSweet. He later served as CEO of General Instrument, 1990-1993, and chairman of Gilead Sciences, 1997-2001, amassing significant wealth and a reputation as a tough, effective executive. During this period, he also served as Reagan's Middle East envoy in 1983, meeting Saddam Hussein in Baghdad, a moment later scrutinized due to U.S. support for Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War. Second tenure as Secretary of Defense, 2001-2006. In 2001, President George W. Bush appointed Rumsfeld as Secretary of Defense for a second time, making him the oldest person to hold the office at age 68. His goal was to transform the Pentagon into a leaner, more agile institution, emphasizing technology and rapid response capabilities. However, the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks shifted his focus to the war on terror. Afghanistan and Iraq wars. Rumsfeld was a central figure in the 2001 U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, which toppled the Taliban, and the 2003 invasion of Iraq, aimed at removing Saddam Hussein and eliminating alleged weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. His insistence on a smaller, high-tech invasion force for Iraq, against the advice of military planners, led to a swift initial victory but insufficient troops for post-invasion stability. No WMD stockpiles were found, undermining the war's primary justification. A Pentagon Inspector General report later criticized Rumsfeld's aide for disseminating misleading intelligence on Iraq's ties to al-Qaeda, which conflicted with the intelligence community's consensus. Rumsfeld's tenure was marred by the Abu Ghraib prisoner abuse scandal in 2004, which he called a stain on our country, and one of his biggest regrets. A 2008 Senate Armed Forces Committee report linked his authorization of harsh interrogation techniques at Guantanamo Bay to subsequent abuses. His dismissive "stuff happens" comment on Iraq's post-invasion looting further fueled criticism of his detachment. Facing mounting political pressure, Rumsfeld offered his resignation twice, but Bush declined until 2006, when he was replaced by Robert Gates after the Republicans' midterm election losses. Controversies and legacy. Rumsfeld's legacy is deeply polarizing. Supporters praise his decisiveness, patriotism, and transformative vision for the military, noting his role in liberating millions from oppressive regimes. Critics argue his strategic miscalculations in Iraq, underestimating the need for post-war planning and troop numbers, contributed to prolonged insurgencies, thousands of deaths, and regional instability. His authorization of interrogation techniques violating the Geneva Conventions drew accusations of enabling torture, damaging his reputation and restricting his foreign travel due to potential legal risks. His famous 2002 known knowns press conference remark, while mocked as convoluted, was defended by some as a clear articulation of decision-making under uncertainty. In his 2011 memoir, Known and Unknown, Rumsfeld expressed no contrition for the Iraq invasion but acknowledged misjudgments, such as not insisting on his resignation post-Abu Ghraib. He donated all book proceeds to veterans charities through the Rumsfeld Foundation, which he and his wife, Joyce, founded to support military families and promote free political and economic systems. Personal life and later years. Rumsfeld married Joyce Pearson in 1954, and they had 3 children and 6 grandchildren. His son's struggle with drug addiction, particularly during the post-9/11 period, deeply affected him, as he recounted in his memoir. Rumsfeld was a lifelong friend of Sammy Davis Jr. and an Elvis Presley fan, reflecting his ability to connect across cultural spheres. In retirement, he developed Churchill Solitaire, a mobile app, with proceeds supporting veterans' causes. In 2016, he endorsed Donald Trump for president, but in 2021, he joined other former defense secretaries in warning against military involvement in election disputes. Rumsfeld died of multiple myeloma on June 29, 2021, at his home in Taos, New Mexico, surrounded by family. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery after a private funeral.